Okay, hi everybody, and today you find me with Glynis, and I thought I would share with you conversations I've been having with Glynis, who was one of my students for SPL, because her story is truly inspirational, and I think we can all learn a lot from Glynis. To give a little bit of an introduction to Glynis, Glynis lives on the Isle of Skye. If you don't know where that is, it is an island above Scotland and right at the top. And up until recently, you could only get there on a ferry. They have more recently built a bridge, I think, Glynis, haven't they?
Yes.
Connecting it, but it's still quite a long way away. And so we'll talk about how that's been a challenge and how she overcome it. She also doesn't just have a job as an accountant, where she's currently talking from her office in Skye now, but she's also a farmer, and she runs a farm with her husband, and she's got over 50 sheep and about 20 cows at present. So effectively, Glynis is an accountant, she's a farmer, and she was a student at the same time. So people who tell me they're too busy, I don't think anyone was any busier than Glynis. Yeah, so she's going to share some great tips that hopefully you can take on board. And yeah, that's what the whole point of this conversation is, because I think she's got some great lessons. So Glynis, you just tell me, you took SPL was your very last exam. You've self-studied the whole way through your exams, which, to be honest, when I studied, there's no way I could have done that. So well done to you for doing that, putting yourself through that pain. But SPL was a bit of a problem for you. Tell us about what happened on SPL.
Hi, Sean. So yes, SBL was my last exam, and unfortunately, I failed it twice. A year ago, well, December 24, I sat it, and I got 49. So just a miss. And I thought, okay, I thought I knew what I needed to do to get over the mark. So I resat in March, and when the results came back in April time, I'd got 48. So I was absolutely gutted by my results there. It was my last exam and things. So had a discussion with my boss. I work in a very, very small practice. It's just my boss and me that work here. And we decided that, yes, I did need to get a tutor. I needed to get someone to help me get through this exam. I obviously knew the stuff. There was something that was missing that I needed to know how to sit the exam. So I made the choice to actually take the whole of the summer off. I needed a break and things. And then we got in touch with yourself. I'd got in touch with you before the summer, actually, found out about your course and things. And then, yes, when it came to enrolling time, I enrolled so that I could sit in December. And yes, I did know all of the theory and all of what you needed to know for SBL. What I didn't know was how to actually apply it, how to get it through the exam. And that is what you taught us. It was thinking in a different way, how to approach the exam, timings of things, but also when a question's asked, how it might, how to then think about how am I answering this and stuff. So it's not just regurgitating theory, it's applying it to the scenario. So you really did teach me how to look at the scenario.
Great. Well, I'm pleased that you took notice, because you're now living your life exam free.
I am exam free,
Which,
thank
yeah,
goodness.
and but the fact is, you failed it and you didn't give up. You took it again, and then you failed it again, and you thought, "Oof, okay, I might need to do something different." And I think that the first lesson I would learn from Glenys is that she's living exam free, or living her life exam free, because she acknowledged that if she's going to pass this exam, she's tried it twice on her own, she needs to adopt a different approach. And you also had, I mean, she did a course, great. I mean, personally, I commend you for passing all the other exams without getting any help when I was a student, I certainly couldn't have passed one accountancy exam without the help of a tutor and, fair play to you. But you also talked about changing your mental outlook. I thought that was an interesting one.
That's right. So going into the exams, I think going through a lot of my exams, I did just pass. I passed a couple of them with 51 or 52. I'd been through Open University even years and years ago. I am gone back to a changing career later in life. I was quite a high achiever and I would get my A's and those sort of marks. But through ACCA, I was some of the papers just passing. And I changed my thinking there and thinking, well, that's fine. I have passed and that's all I need to do. But then it was also, I think I started looking at it and thinking, all I need is a 50. All I need is 50%. But actually that's what I was aiming for. And then when you come up short, you failed. So the other one that I changed my mindset for was going into the exam. I decided, no, I'm aiming for 70%. I didn't want to be one of the winners. I was thinking, no, I've got the skills and stuff. But if I
Only
aim
over
for,
50. Yep.
yeah, but I needed to aim higher and I needed to go, I can actually do this and I can get a good mark. On the day, there was a lot of problems on the day. And then my result was that I got 58. So it wasn't the 70 that I aimed for, but it was the pass that I needed.
No, no, great. And to be honest, that's what you need. You need a pass. There's,
Yeah.
that's all you need to get. And a lot of people talk on social media about being prize winners, and that's great. But it's about passing and getting over the line, which is what you made sure you did. And sometimes when people
Yes.
get 47 or 48, their timing is wrong and they spend too long on task one, which takes away mark earning opportunities maybe on task three. So I think you learnt all of that. But the other lesson I think you learned, which is a great one, so was about stress management. You
Yes.
tell us about what you did with regards to managing stress when taking exams.
After the first mock exam that you'd done, and we did the live Zoom call lesson session, and then right at the end of it, you'd sort of said to everyone, "What would you do differently?" And I sort of put into the chat and things said, try not to stress out and not try to get stressed through it. And so you picked up on that comment and you pointed us to stress management bits on the ACCA website. On there's a well-being section. So, and I thought, well, actually, I have in the past looked at meditation and I've done some of that sort of stuff in the past. But I went to that and there was some good things there on breathing techniques, just slowing yourself down in an exam, a bit of exam technique, how to manage the stress in an exam. And I looked at that and I took that on board. I then practiced it a little bit. So even doing some of the question practice, I tried to time myself for some of that question practice, and I'd sent them off to you for homework and going, I knew that it wasn't a perfect answer, but the thing was that that's what we're not aiming for. We're
Yeah.
not aiming for the perfect answer. We're actually aiming to get an answer that's going to give us enough marks to get over the line. So even at those times, I'd stop and I'd just take a minute and breathe. And then through your mock exams, the next mock exam, I did that. I did get a bit stressed. I was here in the office sitting it and got a bit stressed out, thinking, oh, I'm not sure how I'm answering this, or what am I doing? And then I'd remind myself, right, just take a couple of minutes, stop, take your hands off the keyboard, breathe for a couple of minutes in and out. And I focused on that. And that mock exam, actually, I did really quite well. And that was when I knew that actually I can do well in this exam. And then with the final mock, same things happened and I forgot to do the breathing. I forgot to do all of that. And actually I didn't do as well. I still passed the mock, but I hadn't done as well as I thought I had. So I took that then into the final exam and thought, no. And even I'd said it to my husband at home. And so on the phone the night before, because I have to travel to Aberdeen, so it's a 7-hour trip over to there. So I stay the night before my exam. When I was talking to him, He was just like, he said, "Remember to breathe
Oh,
and
right.
remember what your tutor said, your timing. Remember," because I'd discussed it with him and I'd said, even though he's got absolutely no idea about what I do for work, as in he can't understand any of it. He was, yeah, it really, that was just that reminder I needed. So that's what I took into it the
Yeah,
next day for exam day. And I'm
brilliant.
pleased I had, because yeah, exam day did not go well.
We'll talk about that in a moment because there's inspiration from that. But I think, the ACCA website has lots and lots of
Yes,
great resources. You can
there is a
look at
lot.
past examiner reports.
Yeah.
But one thing that people don't look at, I think it's the mental well-being section it's called, and they've employed psychologists to suggest how, if we are stressed about things, how we can deal with it. And, fair play to you. You took the advice, you went onto the website, learned some breathing techniques, and they really, really help. So I would encourage anyone. I say this to people, but people don't actually always look at it. But you are actually a beneficiary of doing that. And maybe
Yes.
had you not done that, your results might not have gone as well as they did. So great. And you mentioned about that you living on Skye, you can't take the exam in Skye where you live. You have to take a 3.5 hour bus ride off the island, and then you have to take a 3.5 hour, 4 hour train journey to get you to Aberdeen. So about
That's
7 hours
correct.
to get there and about 7 hours to get back. And in order to minimize any potential problems, you have to pay and stay in a hotel the night before.
Yes.
So I'm not sure everyone has a 7 hour journey to their exam center. So people,
Yeah.
who get stressed about half an hour and the tube's a bit delayed, you dealt with 7 hours, and that's great. But not only did you deal with 7 hours, um, you dealt with a thing that sometimes happens. And I had mentioned that this might happen, and because you're a good person at listening, you were prepared for what happened on your exam day. I don't want to kind of scare people here, but I think forewarned is forearmed. And I did let people know that this could happen and this is what to do. So tell us your story about what happened on the exam day and how you dealt with it.
Okay, so there was a lot of technical issues, and apparently it wasn't just me. There was others in my session, but for me, what happened was 5 minutes into the exam, just as you're settling in, you're starting to read all of the questions. You're starting to get your focus of how you start your exam. My screen froze. So the invigilators came over, they managed to get it working. So it worked, and I a couple of clicks in, tried to change screens, and it froze again. And then, yes, they tried to get it going again. They struggled. So I sat there for a while. They then shifted me. I was shifted 2, 3 times to
Oh
different
dear.
computers them to try and get me going. I actually sat for almost an hour and a half before they could get me back into the system. And yeah, a very long time
But
after
also
the
very
exam.
stressful, Glenys. That must be
Very
so
stressful.
stressful. You're all prepared to take the exam
Yeah.
and you keep getting moved around. You'll focus on what you're doing. So what did you do?
I actually, to start off with, I kind of panicked a little bit, and then I thought, well, no, panicking's not. I really did have to talk to myself in my head, just really talk to myself, saying, there is no point in panicking. This is completely outside of my control. I did
Lessons from
go,
the
yeah,
mental, all those. So again, that mental well-being part of the ACCA website has a
just,
video on this, doesn't it? How,
yep,
it's not you, it will be solved. Keep
yep,
calm. And that's what
keep
you did.
calm and stuff. I went and got myself a drink because they've got glasses of water there and a thing. I also was like, no, I did go off and have a bathroom break because I thought, well, I don't know when it gets up and running again and things. So it was difficult. I had to really, really internalize myself and say, no, this isn't your fault. We'll get there. I have one of my previous exams, my tax exam, I took on some of that. There was actually a bad snowstorm in Aberdeen that day, and I was actually the hotel I was supposed to have driven, and because of the um, weather forecast, I decided to take the train at the last minute rather than drive, and I was staying in a hotel just outside the city. The taxi actually couldn't get to me first thing in the morning.
Oh,
So I had that sort of to call back on. That day, I had managed to ring down to the hotel where it was being held, managed to speak to one of the invigilators, and they got through to ACCA, and they swapped me from the morning session to the afternoon session. So I knew, even though we had the technical problems this time, I was like, I know that the invigilators do everything that they can. I know that, yeah, ACCA will do what they
yeah.
can and stuff. And yeah, I just had to wait it out. And the invigilators kept coming to me and saying, "We're trying, we're trying, we're trying." And
Right, but you kept calm, which is the
I
key
did,
thing, and
I
those
did.
videos on keeping calm were really valuable, so,
Yeah,
yeah, I would encourage people to, review them. I'm
yeah,
not trying to scare anyone, as I said, but it's good to be aware of what to do should you find yourself in that situation, because even if they give you a free retake next time, it's not ideal, and you've built yourself up for that exam day, and fantastic, you did great. Any other snippets? You're telling us some really inspiring stories here of how you got through potential problems. Anything else you think is worth sharing to so people can be successful like you?
I think also just share what you're doing with those around you as well. It's amazing what strength you can get from your partner, from your colleagues, from your employer, and things. Keep talking about what you're doing, and then you're not also in it alone. Even if you've got, you're signed up with a tutor or anything as well. It's amazing how much people around you as well. They might not understand what you're learning. Your colleagues or your employer probably should,
Yeah.
and so there's someone to go and go. Oh, I've been thinking this. But even your partner and things, make sure you keep sharing what you're doing, and it just helps. You know that somebody else is taking a little bit of that burden of this stress that you. It is really stressful, the lead up to, especially that little bit last bit, the lead up to the exams and stuff. And the more that you can try and get un, unburden yourself, I would
Okay.
say.
Good advice. It's like a
Yeah.
problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah, you've not got it just in your head. You've verbalized it to someone else, and then and you know that other people are on your side as
Yeah,
well.
great. Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. So, to summarize your advice and what allowed you to be successful like you are today, you tried and you
Yep,
failed, and
yep,
you tried again and you failed, but you
yep.
didn't give up.
You
And
keep
it's
persevering.
yeah, you're also an inspiration for that. And it's not like you just left university and
No.
started your accountancy exams. You came to accountancy exams maybe a little bit later than some people, and you kept going. You didn't give
Yes,
up. So
yes.
that's brilliant.
The
Um,
other one that I would say with that keeping is that you might have a target. I'd originally, my target was to have been qualified probably about 18 months ago. It didn't happen. And it's sort of like, well, the 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 end is still there, and it doesn't matter if it takes you longer. So I did 6 years of Open University before then joining in with the ACCA and things, and it can be a long road, but I know I've got a good career ahead of me for the remainder of my working career, and
and it was
if
worth
it's
it. It was
yeah,
worth
it
it.
is.
Yeah,
If it's
great.
something you enjoy doing, I
Yeah.
say just go for it.
So you were very resilient. I think, make sure you stay resilient. After all, accountancy exams, the pass rate's often less than
Yeah.
50% and lower for a lot of papers. So there's no shame in failing. Just come back better next time. You came back better the third time with a different strategy. You decided you want to get some feedback to your mocks and your homeworks. You had a different mental outlook. So that's fantastic. You considered how you weren't going to let stress get
Yep.
in the way of your study. So you learned breathing techniques and stuff. And then when you were hit with, I would say, a massive, big kind of bomb on the day of the exam, again, that didn't phase you because you knew how to deal with it. So a lot of this is nothing to do with study. You know,
It's mental preparedness.
yeah, it's been prepared for the exam, and that's hopefully what, you know,
Yeah.
I helped you with. It wasn't just about learning the notes, because it's
No,
much more than that. Yeah,
no, what you helped with was certainly the all-round,
yeah,
full-on exam, not just the exam technique, but you mentioned quite a bit of times about looking after yourself,
yeah,
and that is so important.
yeah.
You can't do it if you don't look after yourself.
100%. And you also said in a conversation, you were talking about how, because, you know, when people are, say they're busy, you're busy because you're getting up in the middle of the night because one of your cows is
Yeah.
having a calf, and you have to spend the night with a cow and then go to work the next day. So I'd say that's quite busy. But you also managed the kind of double job you had by having a clear timetable of living. I talk to people about a timetable of living, and you were telling me you were in the cattle market selling some of your cows, but that was in the diary. It wasn't
Yes,
affecting your study because you'd ring fenced market day as a non-study day, and
that's
yeah.
correct.
So you obviously have quite a bit of control about how you live your
Yes.
life, and well, I think that's a really useful thing, and I don't know whether you want to say anything about that. I think
No, I think it is just there was times throughout my study where I didn't focus and I didn't plan, and that was when possibly my results weren't as good because I hadn't made it a clear plan and I hadn't verbalized it properly with the likes of my husband and things. So when things would come up for our business together, and I'd always be wanting to help with that and needing to, sometimes then my study took a backward track. Whereas being very clear, this is what I need to do, this is what I've planned, then it made it much
yeah,
easier to
brilliant.
get through. But also, I think the other important thing is that I actually did also make those choices to have a break and say,
Yeah,
no, no, I'm not going to the next session of exam
well,
session.
summarized, didn't you? Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes taking 6 months off or something and saying,
yes.
"No, I'm not doing the next exams," and giving yourself a proper break where you don't think about it.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah.
I think people, a lesson from that would be, if somebody's boss is piling a lot of pressure on them saying, come on, it's your end, it's that time or whatever, you know, if you can manage your boss and say, look, I'll give you all the time in the world, but would you mind just these next few
Just
weeks?
yeah,
I've got my exam, and maybe even, you know, go into work a couple of hours early so they can see you're actually sacrificing, you're getting out of bed early, you're studying, and they probably have empathy and,
they do.
you know, respect your request. So I think that's a good thing. I mean, you have a business with your husband, and once you let him know, look, you know, I've got all this. He doesn't understand anything about accountancy, but once you explained it to him, he had more
Yes.
empathy and took the reins off you a bit. So great, great. Well, it's a great story. I love the cows. I love the 7 hour journey to the exam center, the
Uh,
7 hour journey back, and then the whole kind of disaster of the exam day, but none of it got in the way. And it's
no,
brilliant. It's great
and
news.
and cracking that bottle of champagne on the 16th of January was the best thing to do.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, you're inspirational, Glenys, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you very
You,
much.
no, no, I just think it helps when people can picture people who will be them one day. And it wasn't that easy for you, I don't think, but you got there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And everyone can get there. And your resilience, your attitude, really a lot to learn from. So thank you. And I think anyone watching this will thank you and be inspired by you. So really,
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
All I would say to anyone that's still studying and still going through it is just keep your own personal focus and just have that determination that you are going to have something good at the end of it, and things, and it is
That's
worthwhile.
great. Well, thank you very much, Glenys. That is absolutely fantastic
You're welcome.
story. Great.
Thanks, Sean.
And all the best going forward.
Yes.
Brilliant, brilliant. All the
Cheers.
best.
Thanks, Sean.